How are
Trying to
you
get this
doing?
camera set up good. Just busy. How was your weekend?
It was really good. It was really relaxing. It actually felt like a holiday weekend. 'Cause these days are blending in, but it
Yes,
actually felt like the weekend and it felt like a holiday. So just
that's
relaxing.
good. That's good. Good,
Made,
good, good.
made sure me and the family got out and got some of that good old vitamin D.
Oh, that's nice. We got out, but I can't say we enjoyed any vitamin D really, not much. My husband reminded me this morning this is the first Memorial Day in a while. It hasn't rained, but
Yes.
taking a little bit of my own medicine yesterday. Speaking in the vein of getting poised for profit, we have an income property. And we were over there getting it ready. We're going to be
Nice.
welcoming a new family in this week. So
Nice.
a lot of painting and cleaning and things like that. And got the kids involved. So that's good. I mean, you feel like you got to train them early, right?
Yeah, indeed. How many kids do you have?
Two,
Boy and girl?
boy and a girl. My son is 16 and my daughter's 12.
Oh my gosh, perfect. Perfect aging too. Like, how are they adjusting during this time?
You know what? It hasn't been, I think early on it was an adjustment because you don't know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
So there's the trickle of information, but I feel like after a couple weeks, once they realized, probably weren't going to be going back to school, they kind of adjusted. They both finished very strong, so can't complain there. But my daughter's a little bit more social, so I think she misses her
hmm
friends
hmm
somewhat. And unfortunately, my son was impacted by the sports being canceled because
Yeah.
he runs track. So that wasn't, that was tough. But maybe they'll get a few things in over the summer. They're trying to figure out how to work around it if there's a way to social distance. I don't know if there'll be any competition, but I think the governor's going to open it up where they can practice.
Mhm. That'd be
Yeah.
great. I mean, it's definitely an adjustment for all of us, and it's like it's adjustment for us as adults. But how do we make sure our kids are okay during this time? You know what I'm
I
saying?
know, right? Yeah.
It's gonna be an impact at the end for everyone, unfortunately. But we'll get through it.
Yeah, we will. We always do.
We always do. So,
Yeah.
how are you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Aisha?
Sure. So my name is Aisha Mootry. Obviously, you just said it, but I am the founder and CEO of Savvy Pro Marketing. What I do is I really like to work with women entrepreneurs to help them grow their businesses using some of the skills that I learned in the corporate world. I been working in marketing professionally for over 15 years. I actually currently still have a full-time job. But I do like to help women who are starting out their businesses. There are some people who have right now I'm really working with people who have established businesses. As you know, with the pandemic, you and I were just talking about that. Virtually every industry is impacted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where I can help most is the topic that we're talking about today and helping women get poised for profit, right? Coming out of a pandemic where you couldn't operate your business and maybe you provide a service like me and it isn't an online sort of option, and you're doing more so personal selling or you're providing a beauty service for people. So I've really just been working with some of my past clients, frankly, who are dealing with this, who've given me a call to just kind of talk through some of their experiences, what some of their plans are later in the year, how they may pivot. And I've just been really truly helping people in that way, as best I can. And I feel like at this point, we really need to stick together and really just collaborate and leverage doing things like we're doing now, just getting the word out by jumping on live to talk to people and trying to get the word out on how we can help, as well as people in our personal networks that we actually touch and feel and have a relationship with, and how can you add value there because you're not really sure when you'll need that, right? So I personally haven't been impacted by the pandemic in terms of employment or financially, but a lot of people in my professional network have, whether that's being laid off or whether or not that has been furloughed or taking a pay cut. It's really impacting every industry. It doesn't really matter what you do. And some of my past clients in terms of my business are women who run businesses where they service people, right? So they own beauty salons or they're personal trainers and things like that. And those are services that you really can't provide at this moment. So I've really just been helping them by brainstorming when I have a little bit of free time and sharing with them some of the things that they can be doing.
Mm-hmm.
One of my clients has been going live. It's so funny because when I first started working with her, she didn't really want to get on camera. And now every time I look up, I'm getting the notification that she's going live. So I
That's
think it's really great, though.
mhm.
So just showing people what kinds of DIY things they can do to take care of their hair during the pandemic. You see, this is my quarantine hair and my Afro puff. But
Saying,
everybody's doing that, right? But there's some people that don't know what to do with
mhm,
it. So, I'm like, you can add value by telling your customers how to take care of their hair, selling some of those products that you have so that they can keep consistent, with their wash day regimen, if nothing else. Um, and also just thinking about what other products you have that you can sell. So she happens to also manufacture makeup. Who isn't
mhm,
having to get on conference calls, on Zoom, on video? You want to at least make sure you're somewhat presentable. So being
right.
able to pivot in that fashion. So that's really just what I've been doing most recently as it pertains to Savvy Pro Marketing. Um, but it's really in line with what I do generally in terms of helping women
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. Not to say that I only work with women, but most of my clients have been women, and sometimes in the business world too. When I was full time with my consulting business, I worked with a lot of women who were either CEOs of their own multi-million-dollar companies or they had senior executive level positions at advertising agencies and what have you.
Mhm. How have you been able to balance your full time with your business?
It's been hard lately.
Yeah.
So, it's been hard lately, but I really, if I'm being honest, I do Savvy Pro Marketing because I really like to do it, and I just really have a heart for helping women take their business to the next level, particularly women who have established businesses and then maybe they're hitting a plateau or they're seeing their clientele decline and they're not really sure what to do next. I really like to help them kind of get over the hump into the next level and show them some of the things that you do when you get to big business that they can leverage, even if they're still a small business, but they've been in business for a long time. And usually it's, weekends, evenings, that sort of second shift.
Right.
But with the pandemic and your kids being home and what have you, in order to do my full-time job, I am pretty much tied to the computer or desk most of the day on conference calls, working on projects, meeting deadlines, managing the team, like all that kind of stuff. So I have not really sort of buckled down a whole lot as it pertains to working with new clients lately, just because I am needing to give that attention to my kids. But speaking of sort of being poised for profit, one of the things that I am looking to do so that I can help more women is to create some digital products that people can
Mhm.
download at their own time, right? That I
Mhm.
could still share that information, and pivoting to let's get on a strategy call to talk about how we can implement some of the things that you may be reading in an ebook or any other digital product that I put out, masterclass, what have you. And then we can have very specific sort of conversations, and I can help you versus sort of what it had been traditionally is long term sort of contracts and things like that.
Is that one of your strategies? Because I know for me, like I'm a service based business. However, during this time, I have pivoted more so to doing digital products, and that has skyrocketed for me. It's something I didn't even really like. I wanted to do, but I kind of felt like kind of pushed into doing it, right? In
Mm-hmm.
a way, pushed in a good way into doing it. Is that a strategy that you recommend for people? Like figure out what in your business you can turn into a digital product, how you can help people with a guidebook, a planner, etc.
Yeah, I think that is a good strategy, particularly for women like yourself or other women who are in service based businesses and have been for a while. You have a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a fan of people jumping out and writing ebooks, and I'm sure there are people who may disagree with what I'm about to say, but I really am big on being credible in the space, having experience, because I really want to make sure that I deliver on the promise, right? So, um, while I have worked on the marketing side as a brand manager, as well as on the advertising agency side, I think where I can help women most is in sales because I also spent some time in that part of the business as well. It gave me an opportunity to work with big brands, clients direct, working with a McDonald's, a Target, a Walmart, right at their headquarters, dealing with people who are working on in marketing in that level. I have a lot of experience that I can share that
Mm-hmm.
can be applicable to some small businesses. So I think if you have a situation like that and you're very experienced in creating virtual experiences, yeah, you absolutely need to write an ebook right now because
Mm-hmm.
everyone, even people who weren't comfortable with virtual events before, you have to get comfortable with it. I'm going to just be honest. I don't like being on camera. I wasn't one of those people who are always ready to jump in front of a camera doing photo shoots and things like that for my handle. I'd rather really be doing the work, but you also have to pay attention to what your audience wants and what they need. And I think that probably when I started making a turn, although I'm still growing my handle, when I started making a turn and really, really start seeing growth is when I came from behind my logo. So maybe if you're not necessarily ready to jump out and do an ebook, maybe you try to get warmed up with digital by trying to attract an audience and communicating like that, and then sort of take baby steps to that would be my recommendation.
That sounds great. What about social media? You really truly have to stay consistent. I have seen, honestly, I've not been posting every day, and I have seen a dip in engagement. That is honestly crucial to
Yes,
post every day.
yes, yes. I agree. You do have to be consistent. One of my favorite tools is Planoly. I use it to schedule my posts, and it's critical, particularly with me having a full-time job. And people ask me, like, "Oh my God, you're so consistent. How do you do that?" And you have a full-time job. Like, I'm literally in a meeting handling business for my client, and my posts are going
Going.
because I schedule them on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That also is time consuming as well. I highly recommend if you're running into a time, running into challenges with scheduling your social media, that you not only look into a tool like Planoly that is a scheduling tool. It's very visual. You can edit it as you like. I also like the fact that they have a free option. They also have a paid option. It's a sort of nominal cost, but they also do webinars training. So if you don't know how to do social media, and you're looking to learn more or take your brand to the next level, increase engagement, they do a variety of topics and their webinars that you can join. So that's something that I definitely would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, look into batching too, because it can be very overwhelming to come up with imagery, think up topics, figure out what's the best day to post it, as well as try to write a caption, right, that makes sense. That's your work. Sometimes if I'm scrolling through and I see images that I like, or I like an idea layout that I may want to try on my handle, I'll just snap a screenshot of it,
Right.
maybe email it to myself or put it in another tool that I use called Over, where I can drop my logo in and things like that.
Wait, what is it
I
called?
just Over,
Oh, I've never heard.
Over.
Hmm. I'll just check
Yeah.
that out.
It's a pretty cool tool, particularly if you like to play around with graphics, but you're not really a graphic designer, because I
Yeah.
certainly am not a graphic designer. But I do like to play around with graphics, and it's a pretty intuitive tool. So
Mm-hmm.
what I will do is just drop a lot of pictures that I feel inspired by. They have some pictures loaded in there that you can also use. They also have a paid option where you have, more access to more stock photo, because again, I don't have time to do photo shoots and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
I'm just being realistic with myself. So I just try to find the things that I feel are most relevant, and I found it to be useful so far. So
Definitely
those
check.
would be my recommendations around social.
What's like your top three tips for getting through this time and
Hmm.
keeping your business poised for profit?
Yes. So the tips that I'm going to share today, so we're going to talk a little bit about getting poised for profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think these are tips that are evergreen, could work at any time, and particularly critical right now.
Mm-hmm.
So tip number one is to make time to really, really get to know your customers. And what I mean by that, of course, you should know, as everyone always says, if you're in business, you're solving a problem, right? That's how you have a successful business. You're solving a problem for someone.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes beyond actually just that. You need to really dig into the why people buy from you. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not the only person that publishes a certain product or provides a certain service. It's important to know as a business owner why people choose to buy from you. Why are they buying from you? Knowing this helps you to better serve them, and it also encourages customer loyalty. So I highly recommend people study their client relationships. Particularly for your best clients, you should know which products and services they buy from you, and at what frequency they buy them from you, and what price point
Mm-hmm.
they're buying from. Tip number two is to stop waiting for the phone to ring. I
Mm-hmm.
think, particularly when it comes to service-based businesses, this is something that's a habit that I see all the time, and we have to, as business owners, stop waiting for the phone to ring. By having that information on your customers that I talked about in tip number one, it'll help you anticipate their needs. So when you reach out to them, their outreach is tailored actually to what they want, and you're not sending them an offer all the time for something that isn't relevant to them. It shows that you're not paying attention if that's what you're doing. Whereas if you spend the time to actually learn about your customers, you will be able to better leverage that information. So, a quick story, I mentioned to you earlier that I was in ad sales for a while. So, I
Mm-hmm.
sold digital advertising and national television commercials for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, I earned two promotions, and I also earned this esteemed President's Club honor. Folks in sales probably know what that is. But importantly, every client interaction was very methodical from my point of view. I entered into new business pitches well informed about the client, their industry, and the competition. For repeat clients, I always had an offer or idea for them to review. Again, using that information that I talked about in number one about what I knew about them. This approach helped me to repeatedly exceed multi-million dollar sales goals. And
Right.
advertising is very expensive. It's also very competitive. So you learn quickly that markdowns is not a strategy. And the same is true for entrepreneurship. I see a lot of people doing a lot of markdowns, free offers,
Mm-hmm.
gimmicks, sales funnels, all that kind of stuff is popular, doesn't have longevity. So that would be my tip number two. Not to say that it shouldn't be part of your mix if your business model matches that,
Mm-hmm.
but it certainly should not be your sort of one trick pony that's all you do, because it's going to get old after a while, and you'll find yourself continually have to fill that funnel with new customers. The oldest thing in sales is it's always easier to sell more to who you're selling to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Than to go out and find new clients. But you also have to continue to find new clients, but you
Yeah.
don't want to be in that situation because it makes your income very unpredictable, and thereby your business not profitable because you can't really predict it. So that was tip number two. Tip number three, it's really, if you don't want to attract price conscious customers, I would say that it's important to create a brand experience. So in creating a brand experience, you're creating an experience that adds value in the eyes of your customer. Not what you think the value of your product is, but what is of value as seen by the customer. So I've been selling since I was about 13 years old when I sat down and actually thought about it, which is
Wow.
crazy,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Tell us.
um,
Since you were
what's
13,
that? Since I was 13.
what did you sell when you were 13?
So when I was 13, I worked at a department store that was sort of it put you in the mind of sort of boutique type shopping now, but it was a department store that was private owned by a family, and they did have men, women's, and kids clothes. And a lot of the people that lived around us, two income households, would shop there. I grew up shopping there. We'd always go get my Easter dress there, my brownie Girl Scout uniforms, the patches that I earned, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up in the store and that environment is kind of what I'm saying. So when I got to be a teenager, they saw me grow up in the store, always coming there with my mom. And I had an opportunity to sort of get a work permit and learn a little bit about it. I've always kind of liked fashion and beauty. So they gave me a job.
Wow,
So
at 30.
I started out at 13, I started out in the gift wrap center. So they had a lot of
Mhm.
customer service, and I started out there in gift wrap. And people come and they want the basic gift wrap, right? But no, we got these pretty bows and real ribbons, and I learned how to like make the bows and all that kind of stuff.
I love.
So that started out selling really because it was an extra service that people had to pay for. And then when they get there, the salesperson gets them there, you upsell them to the pricier, pretty and bigger packaging, right?
Yep.
So that was really the first thing. And then after that, I stayed there for a while. They eventually, kind of put me on the sales floor, but um, I ended up actually then moving along right to my mid-teen years selling the highly coveted Air Jordan sneaker drops of the
Oh.
90s. So I worked at a sneaker store. Um, and I also have some experience working in retail. I would say sort of moderate to pricey apparel to suburbanites, frankly, living a life that I knew nothing about at the
Mhm.
time. But all those things taught me one thing, a lot of things, right? But the thing that stands out to the most is you can't always spot a big spender. And I think as business owners, we have to, no matter how good your business is doing, you have to remain humble. You
Mhm.
never know who the big spenders are, and you
Right.
should treat every single customer as if they were your last, right? And with respect. And prior to March, whatever date, and
Mhm.
you're running a business, you never knew, prior to the big announcement that whatever customer walked out of your door at that time was going to be the last person that you would see for 2 months because you've been forced to
Mhm.
close, right? And now you have to go get those people. And I think the reality that a lot of businesses are going to face that they may not be thinking about, everyone thinks that I get to open, so, the floodgates are going to pour. That isn't necessarily going to happen
Oh.
at all. And your customers have been shopping.
Mhm.
Whereas before, they had a routine, they came to you like clockwork on every third Saturday or whatever the situation is. They
Mhm.
have been shopping because they have been home with nothing else to do. How you handled those customer service calls when people called and begged you to open and tried to figure something out, all of that is going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So I would say, it's about creating a brand experience though, because when you create a brand experience, none of those sort of things are going to have your customers being fair weather. Because remember, we talked about in tip number one, you're going to know very precisely why they buy from you.
Right.
And that helps you create that brand experience that's going to keep them coming back and build that loyalty that you really want. So I think that was the last tip, right? I think that
It
was three.
was, and those are all
So,
great tips.
oh, thank you.
So let's go back
So,
to. Oh, go ahead.
you want me to recap them or?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. So to recap the three tips, it was make time to really get to know your customers. Stop waiting for the phone to ring was tip number two, so that you can anticipate your customer needs and be able to reach out to them with tailored outreach. And then thirdly, we just talked about you want to create a brand experience.
All right, thanks for that recap. So we understand how important it is for you to understand what your customer's why is. It's also important for you to understand what your why is. What is your why?
Yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier. My why is I really have a passion for helping women build their businesses. I guess over the course of my career, when I think about it, particularly on the the agency side of the advertising business, I would deal with small businesses all the time, with
Mhm.
publishers of magazines or websites or what have you that were coming in trying to get us to buy advertising in whatever their publication was. And sometimes they had really good ideas and good audiences, but didn't really know how to package it or how to price it. And in some of those instances, people were losing money. That's just the truth. And you have to know about your packaging and your pricing, and everything needs to be really consistent.
Mhm.
So if you have a brand where your pricing is somewhat premium, all your branding should also look premium,
Exactly.
you know, just basic things like that. And if you're getting into an arena where you're trying to sell sponsorships or put on an event and you really don't know how much those packages cost, where do you go? What
Mhm.
do you do? And when I got to thinking about that and talking to people who put on dynamic events and attending events on my own and being on the other side of the table, being the person making the decision as to whether or not that sponsorship is going to be bought, and then flipping to the other side where I'm the same person trying to get you to buy a sponsorship. Now I have a thorough understanding from both sides how much those things cost, what's the real price, what's the real market value. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of times we just kind of slap price tags on things without really, really thinking it through. And that's really important to your business. And I also just know that it's sort of a gray area and it's really an obscure business, right? No one really knows how to do this unless you're in it. And if you've not had the luxury of being on the side of the business where I have, where you have sort of seen this thing live and I know what the landscape looks like, where do you go? And what
Right.
I landed on is people don't have anywhere to go. So I like to be that solution. I'm really, I like collaborating with other entrepreneurs, with women. I think it's fascinating that people have these ideas in their head and they go in their kitchen and make a product and it turns into a multi-million-dollar company,
Mhm.
or women who just take their experiences, good and bad, write a book that helps other women, and then now they have a whole entrepreneurial venture where they're on stage giving speeches or creating master classes, and you're sort of making money now while you're asleep. And the
Right.
reality is, if this pandemic has taught us nothing else, it certainly should teach us all that multiple streams of income are
Mm.
critical.
Critical.
Multiple streams are critical. I share with you at the beginning of the call that I'm even trying to teach my 12 and 16-year-old that,
Yeah.
like, this is not easy. And of course they got tired, throughout the day. I think my daughter told us, said we were there 12 hours. She's like, we've been over here 12 hours. But the reality is you got to grab this pizza and keep it moving. And I had to remind
Yep.
her, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm on some soapbox and things have always been well. But what I am going to say is that multiple stream of income has come in handy of many a times. It has helped pay bills, it has bought groceries before, and it has taken us on vacation. You know what I mean? So you have
Yes.
to have multiple streams of income because you just never know when you're going to need to tap into those things. And particularly if you're a family, one person or another is going to lose their job at some point, and you never know when that time is coming. Um, and why not spend some of your free time doing something that you're passionate about and helping other people? So that's really my why.
I agree. I love your why. And your why has
Thank you.
helped many people and will continue to help many people. Can we, how do people get in touch with you to work with you? And what do you offer consultations? I would imagine, correct? Like
Yes.
an hour consultation or do you have a discovery call where people can talk to you for 15, 20 minutes to first make sure you all are a match? How does that work with your business?
But I don't really publish them, to be honest with you. Um, what I do is very high touch, and it does require sort of one-on-one relationship, and it is important that Um, there is chemistry, if you will.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, because I've been in the business so long, a lot of my long-term clients were also clients of mine in the business world.
Hmm.
So they already knew me and didn't really need a discovery call. Or there are people who were referred to me by people from that world and they sort of already felt comfortable before reaching out. And in those
Hmm.
cases, depending on what it is, if you're calling me because you're trying to, produce an event and you're looking to bring in $1 million in sponsorship sales, let's just say, I'm not going to hold
You're a little frozen.
for a second. But it varies based on the need of the client. So I don't really publish discovery calls. But if there are people who are looking to have a specific conversation, they're having a current challenge that they're looking to work through, I do offer strategy calls.
Okay.
And those are posted on my website, so savvypromarketing.com. You can kind of browse around there, but if you go to the page about, I think it's our founder, the page that I'm on that tells my story, you can book there. There's a banner at the top. Or you can just follow me on Instagram at Savvy Pro Marketing, and the link in the bio it'll take you right there.
Okay. Well, if anyone watching, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. Let me ask you for your resources, your tools, your top, let's say 3 tools that you use to thrive. Now, we already talked about over. Do you have
hmm
any additional tools that you use on a daily basis, weekly basis, however, to help thrive in your business?
I definitely use Planoly
Like,
quite consistently. I talked about over from a social standpoint. I read a lot of trades, and it varies based on the clients that I'm working on. So when I was working on a beauty brand, I would read the retail trades, for example.
nice.
Um, when I was working with a producer of a live event, then I would follow other events that attracted that same kind of attendee, if you
Yeah.
will. I would go to events
Do
and
your
scout
research.
them out.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? I didn't hear
Do
you.
your research.
Yeah,
It's vital.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then also just keeping up on the trends of what's trending in that category. And I do also read a lot of research reports too, that are pretty lengthy, but they give you a lot of information. You can trust that the information is useful because it's generally statistically sound.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make predictions that you can apply to local businesses. I would say Mintel is a good resource for that, as well as Path to Purchase if you're in retail business. Um, Mintel just has a lot of consumer insight information, and some of these reports do cost, but some of them are free. Um, and if you're like looking to get into advertising and you feel like you're in a place where you're looking to advertise your product and you have an ad budget, you might want to look at Nielsen as well,
Mm-hmm.
as e-marketer. So those are the sources. I try to give you a balance of things that I use for small business as well as, the types of things that I use with my and working on my client's business and my 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are very helpful. Like some of
Thank
those
you.
I have, so thank you for that. Well, I
You're
really appreciate
welcome.
your time. I definitely want to collaborate with you in the future, especially knowing that you work with event planners. Okay, so we got a vibe with that one for sure. Do you have
Absolutely.
any other tips you would like to leave our viewers?
Um, I think that's about all I have to share today. But again, I'm
Very.
available for strategy calls. If anyone out there needs help getting poised for profit coming out of this crazy situation that we're in, or just in general, if you're looking to scale your business and maybe pivot altogether, I'm open to having those conversations. As I mentioned, you can book it on my website. After we get off this call, for people who are listening, I am going to go ahead and make an adjustment to the rate. I think I will maybe bring it down about 30%
Okay.
after the call. So
Take
for
advantage.
folks that are tuning in, what's that?
I told them they better take advantage.
Yeah, and I'll leave it at that rate for the next 24 hours.
Nice.
So if anyone wants to book a strategy call, definitely, like I said, you can follow my handle at Savvy Pro Marketing. I'd love to connect with you there. Still building my audience, but there's a lot of valuable information. I put a lot of tips like we've talked about here. You can find in the captions of some of my past posts. And again, if you're looking to book a strategy call, you can just tap the link in the bio and then you'll see the book button in the banner.
Sounds great. Well, thank you again, Aisha, for your
Thank
time
you.
during our little flash presentation. But I would love to collaborate with you on a longer discussion, longer presentation.
Okay,
All right.
let's talk.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.